The crystalline walls of the throne chamber hummed with a frequency that made Captain Vex's secondary hearts flutter. 20 cycles of service to the Hive Queen had not prepared her for this moment. A human child standing 3 meters from her radiance, tears streaming down pale cheeks, while the entire royal court held its collective breath. The girl was perhaps 6 solar cycles old, her small frame trembling in the ceremonial goodbye robes that the diplomatic corps had provided. Protocol dictated that departing dignitaries bow once, speak their formal farewell, and retreat backward for exactly 47 paces. The child had managed the bow. She had even whispered something approximating the traditional words. But now, as she turned to leave, the crying began. Not the polite, restrained emotion the Zithrii understood. This was something raw and primal, a sound that carved through the chamber's perfect acoustics like a blade through silk. The queen's chitinous crown flared wider, its iridescent plates catching the bioluminescent light. Her 6 limbs locked into absolute stillness. Vex's hand moved instinctively toward her plasma lance. Every guard in the chamber mirrored the motion. The crying intensified. "Mama!" the child sobbed, the word barely intelligible through her gasps. "Mama, please!" The human ambassador, Dr. Sarah Chen, stood 15 paces behind the child, her face carved from stone. Diplomatic immunity prevented Vex from reading the woman's biosignature, but her posture spoke volumes. This farewell ceremony was not what it appeared to be. The queen's mandibles clicked once. Twice. The chamber's temperature dropped 3 degrees. Protocol required Vex to remove the crying child immediately. The Hive Mother must not be disturbed. The sacred ceremony must not be corrupted by uncontrolled emotion. Yet the queen's stillness was absolute, and Vex had learned over 2 decades that her radiance's silence was a command more powerful than any spoken word. The child sank to her knees, small hands pressed against the polished obsidian floor. "I don't want to go. I don't want to go without you." Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. Her fingers curled into fists at her sides, then deliberately relaxed. "Mira," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. "Remember what we discussed. I don't care about the mission." The girl's voice cracked. "I care about you." The queen's primary eyes narrowed. Her sense signature shifted from formal neutrality to something Vex couldn't identify, a complex chemical cascade that sent confused signals through every guard's sensory organs. The Hive Mother leaned forward, her massive form moving with impossible grace. "Captain!" The queen's voice resonated through the chamber, a sound like mountains grinding together. "Explain this ritual I am witnessing." Vex training warred with her ignorance. "Your radiance, the humans call this goodbye. The small one returns to their homeworld. The elder remains for diplomatic service. This is grief," the queen stated. It was not a question. The child looked up, tears still streaming, her small face a portrait of devastation that transcended species barriers. For the first time in recorded history, a human child made direct eye contact with the Hive Mother during formal ceremony. "Yes," Mira whispered. "I'm losing my mother." The queen's stillness broke. She rose from her throne, towering 4 meters tall, her crown scraping the chamber's vaulted ceiling. Every guard tensed. Every courtier retreated 2 steps. But the queen moved toward the child with deliberate, measured steps. "You possess no understanding of our ways, small human," the queen said, her voice softer now, but no less powerful. "Yet you stand in my presence and declare your pain as though it matters more than protocol." Myra's chin lifted slightly, a gesture of defiance wrapped in despair. "It does matter. She's my mom. She's all I have." Dr. Chen stepped forward before Vex could intercept. "Your Radiance, I apologize for this disruption. The separation is necessary. The alliance requires silence." The word reverberated through every molecule of air. The ambassador froze. The queen's smallest pair of arms extended, claws retracting, reaching toward the child with unexpected gentleness. You weep because you will be separated from your mother. This is the source of your anguish. Yes. The word was barely audible. And you, ambassador. The queen's attention shifted like a searchlight finding its target. You permit this separation. You enforce it. Dr. Chen's professional mask finally cracked. I have no choice, Your Radiance. Earth's government requires genetic baseline humans for the colony mission. Mira meets the criteria. I've been granted the honor of serving as humanity's permanent representative here. We both serve our species as duty demands. The Queen's signature became almost violent in its complexity. Vex recognized components now: confusion, curiosity, and something else. Something that made her secondary hearts skip their rhythm entirely. Recognition. This is your daughter, the Queen said, the statement landing like a physical blow. Your genetic offspring. Your child. The silence that followed contained universes. The Queen's form seemed to expand, filling the chamber not with physical mass but with presence. Her crown plates shifted through colors no SciFi language had names for. When she spoke again, her voice carried harmonics that bypassed auditory processing entirely and struck directly at the primitive hindbrain. I am sovereign of 7 billion SciFi across 16 worlds. I am the mother of the hive, the voice of unity, the keeper of the eternal cycle. Her massive head tilted, studying the small crying human with an intensity that made even veteran courtiers step back. I have never possessed what you are willingly destroying. Dr. Chen's composure shattered completely. Tears welled in her eyes, though her voice remained steady through obvious force of will. Your Radiance cannot understand. Humans don't have a hive mind. We don't share consciousness. Each of us is alone except for the bonds we build. Mira is. She's the only one who. Her voice broke. They told me this was the price of peace. That both our positions were too valuable to abandon. That we were serving something greater than ourselves. Greater than the bond between you and your offspring. The Queen's statement held no question, only a terrible dawning comprehension. Mira pushed herself to her feet, swaying slightly. Her face was blotchy and red, her nose running, every aspect of her appearance a violation of ceremony. My mom is the best person in the whole galaxy. She teaches me about stars and how to be brave, and she sings me songs when I'm scared. And they're making her stay here for 10 years and I have to go be a colonist and we won't even be able to talk because the distance is too far in. The words dissolved into fresh sobs. The Queen's secondary arms moved with startling speed, plucking the child from the floor as easily as one might lift a flower petal. Vex's lance was halfway drawn before she registered the gentleness of the gesture. The Queen held Mira at eye level, examining her with all 6 visual organs. You are terrified, the Queen observed. Not of me. Of losing her. Yes. Myra's honesty was absolute, untouched by diplomacy or fear. And you, Ambassador, the Queen continued, still holding the child suspended in air. You shake with the effort of not weeping. Your sent screams of grief barely contained. Yet you stand here prepared to let your daughter leave. Dr. Chen's shoulders squared despite the tears tracking down her face. I serve humanity. She serves humanity. We do what we must. You possess no hive to distribute this burden across billions of minds, the Queen said slowly, as though each word required translation from concepts her species had never needed to name. Each human carries their own pain alone. You do not share memory. You cannot truly know another's thoughts. You exist in isolation except for these fragile bonds you form through proximity and choice. Yes, Your Radiance. And these bonds, This thing you call family must be actively maintained. Physically, they require presence. Yes. The queen lowered Mira gently to the floor, then rose to her full height. Her sense signature shifted to something Vex had only encountered 3 times in her entire service, the smell of absolute authority preparing to reshape reality. This will not occur, the queen declared. Captain Vex, seal the chamber. No one enters or leaves until I have spoken. Vex moved instantly, her training overriding her confusion. The massive doors ground shut with a resonance that shook dust from ancient carvings. The magnetic locks engaged with a sound like thunder. The queen descended from her dais entirely now, moving into the open floor of the chamber, a space she had not occupied in living memory. Her bulk dominated the room, but she moved with careful precision, ensuring her limbs threatened no one. For 3 solar cycles, humanity has negotiated with the Hive, she began, her voice pitched for everyone present. We have discussed trade, territory, technology. We have established protocols and treaties and elaborate frameworks of cooperation. We have assigned our most skilled diplomats to foster understanding between our species. Dr. Chen nodded carefully. Yes, Your Radiance. The alliance has been beneficial for both our peoples. Yet in all these discussions, across all these negotiations, not once did humanity explain this fundamental truth of your existence. The queen's crown flared wide, colors cascading across its surface. You are profoundly, terribly alone. Each of you isolated inside your own mind. Unable to share thoughts directly. Unable to distribute emotional burden across a collective consciousness. You build these bonds, mother and child, family, friendship, as a desperate architecture against existential solitude. The chamber was so quiet that Vex could hear her own secondary hearts beating in counterpoint. And your governments, the queen continued, her tone darkening, demand that you sacrifice these bonds for abstract concepts like duty and service. They separate families across distances that sever communication. They impose isolation upon a species already condemned to isolation by biology. Your Radiance, Dr. Chen's voice was cautious. Many humans serve willingly. Many of us believe in the greater good. Do you believe your daughter should leave? The question hung in the air like a blade. Dr. Chen closed her eyes. When she opened them, they held a rawness that no diplomatic training could mask. No. I believe it will destroy us both. I believe I will lie awake every night wondering if she's safe, if she's happy, if she remembers my voice. I believe she will grow up without a mother and learn that love is always secondary to politics. I believe we will both serve our functions and fulfill our duties, and something irreplaceable will die between us. And I believe that when I'm old and she's a stranger, we'll both wonder if the colony on Kepler 442b was worth this price. Then, why permit it? Because I'm one person. Because the colony needs children. Because Earth's government decided my expertise is too valuable to waste in cryosleep for a 100-year voyage. Because refusing means disgrace for my family and potential political consequences for Earth standing in the alliance. Because I'm trapped between impossible choices and I'm trying to make the least destructive decision. Her voice broke completely. Because I don't know what else to do. Mira ran to her mother, wrapping small arms around Dr. Chen's legs. The ambassador sank down, pulling her daughter close, and, for a moment, they simply held each other while the most powerful being in the sector watched. The Queen's sense signature became something new entirely. Something that made Vex's sensory organs ache with the effort of interpretation. When the Hive Mother spoke again, her voice carried a resonance that suggested this moment would be recorded in HFY history for millennia. I am mother to billions, yet I have never held a single child, she said. Every HFY is born into the Hive mind, immediately connected to the vast consciousness of our species. They are never alone. They never fear abandonment because abandonment is impossible. The hive is eternal, omnipresent, absolute. Her massive head lowered until her primary eyes were level with Mira and Dr. Chin. I have envied humanity many things. Your innovation, your adaptability, your creative chaos. But I never understood what you lacked until I saw this child weeping. You build families because you must. You forge these fragile, beautiful bonds because without them you face the universe completely alone. And you name this love. Dr. Chin looked up, her face streaked with tears, confusion, and hope warring in her expression. Your species has negotiated with the hive as though we are similar, the Queen continued, as though our needs and values align closely enough that treaties make sense. But you never told us that human children require their mothers not for genetic instruction or resource allocation, but for this. She gestured at the embracing pair. For presence. For continuity. For the assurance that they are not alone in the dark. Your radiance, Vex ventured carefully. What are you saying? The Queen's crown plates locked into a configuration that indicated absolute decision. I am saying that the Alliance Treaty requires renegotiation. Specifically, Article 7, Section 12, Subsection E, which mandates that diplomatic personnel serve minimum 10-year terms without family accompaniment to prevent divided loyalties. Dr. Chen's head snapped up. Your Radiance, Earth's government will never, Earth's government. The Queen interrupted, her voice carrying the full weight of sovereign power. Will accept the modification or the hive will withdraw from the alliance entirely. We will take our technology, our trade routes, and our military cooperation with us. Humanity will face the Kryn expansion alone. The threat landed like a hammer blow. The Kryn were the reason humanity had sought alliance membership in the first place. Aggressive, expansionist species whose territory bordered human space. Without the hive's support, Earth's outer colonies would be indefensible. You would end the alliance over a single family? Dr. Chen asked, her voice barely audible. I would end the alliance over a principle. The Queen corrected. The hive will not participate in a coalition that demands its members sacrifice their children on the altar of bureaucracy. If humanity wishes our cooperation, humanity will learn to value the bonds that keep your species psychologically intact. Vex felt her entire understanding of galactic politics shifting beneath her feet. The Queen was gambling everything, trade agreements worth trillions, defensive pacts that protected both species, scientific collaborations that had advanced civilization itself, on the tears of one small human child. Furthermore, the Queen continued, her tone brooking no argument. The colony mission to Kepler 442b will be postponed 18 standard months. This will provide time to recruit volunteers whose family situations permit long-term separation. Children will not be conscripted for colony service until they reach legal adulthood by their own species standards. Your Radiance, the colony ship is already prepared. The colonists have been selected. The resources invested. Dr. Chen stopped, seeming to realize the futility of her objection. Resources are replaceable. Technology can be rebuilt. Treaties can be renegotiated. The Queen's eyes fixed on Mira with unexpected tenderness. But this child will never have another first decade with her mother. Time, Ambassador, is the one thing even the hive cannot manufacture. Mira looked up at the towering alien Queen with wonder cutting through her tears. Does this mean I can stay with my mom? It means, the Queen said carefully, that your species will need to choose. Either you remain with your mother and someone else takes your place on the colony mission, or Earth refuses the hive's terms and faces the consequences. Dr. Chen pulled her daughter closer. They'll accept. They have to. Without the hive, humanity's expansion halts entirely. The political cost of refusing will be She laughed shakily. You've just held galactic peace hostage to save my family. I have corrected a fundamental injustice. The Queen replied. The hive does not comprehend loneliness. It is alien to our nature. But I comprehend necessity. And I have witnessed that human children require their parents with the same biological imperative that drives our drones to serve the hive. To ignore this is to violate your species' fundamental architecture. Vex watched her sovereign with new understanding. The Queen had not simply made a political calculation. She had recognized something in the human bond that called to some deep, ancient instinct even the hive mind still carried. The need to protect the young. The recognition of irreplaceable bonds. The acknowledgement that some things transcended politics. Captain Vex, the Queen commanded, transmit a Priority 1 message to the Alliance Council. Inform them that the Hive Mother requires emergency renegotiation of the diplomatic service protocols. All member species must review policies that separate parents from dependent offspring. This is non-negotiable. Yes, Your Radiance. Vex moved to the communication console, her mind still reeling. The Queen returned to her throne, settling her massive form back into position. Her sense signature gradually normalized, though traces of that strange, fierce protectiveness remained. Ambassador Chun Yu and your daughter will remain in the diplomatic quarters for now. I expect Earth's response within 24 standard hours. Dr. Chen stood, still holding Myra's hand. Your Radiance, I don't have words sufficient to thank you. Then do not speak them, the Queen replied. Instead, teach me about this bond you share. The hive wishes to understand how a species survives when each individual carries their own consciousness in isolation. How you build meaning from these fragile connections. How you face the universe knowing you are fundamentally alone except for the bonds you choose to maintain. Mira, with the fearless honesty of childhood, answered before her mother could speak. It's like holding hands in the dark, she said simply. Everything's scary, but you're less scared because someone you love is there too. The Queen's stillness suggested profound thought. An entire civilization built on holding hands in the dark, she mused. Perhaps humanity is not as fragile as the hive assumed. Or perhaps you are more fragile, but stronger for acknowledging it. The chamber doors opened again. Vex had transmitted the message. Now came the waiting, and, likely, the political firestorm. Earth's government would be furious. Other alliance members might object. The ramifications would cascade through a dozen different treaties and agreements. But, as Vex watched the small human child squeeze her mother's hand and smile through lingering tears, she understood that her Queen had seen something the rest of the galaxy had missed. Humanity's strength lay not in their technology or their adaptability, but in their desperate, defiant refusal to accept isolation. They built families, friendships, alliances, all fragile structures against the void, and they fought with stunning ferocity to preserve them. The response from Earth came in 19 hours. As predicted, there was outrage, formal protests, accusations of overreach, and emotional manipulation. But underneath the bluster, there was capitulation. The alliance treaty would be modified. The diplomatic service protocols would be revised. And the colony mission to Kepler 442b would wait until adult volunteers could be recruited. One small human child had, through her tears, forced two civilizations to confront a truth they had both been avoiding, that some bonds, once broken, could never be repaired. That duty and love need not be enemies. That perhaps the price of service should not always be paid by the innocent. Vex stood her watch that night with unusual thoughtfulness. She was part of the hive, connected to billions of minds, never truly alone. Yet she found herself wondering what it must be like to be human, to carry your consciousness in solitary confinement, to build meaning from individual relationships, to face the infinite cosmos knowing that you were profoundly, terribly alone except for the people you chose to love. And she wondered if the hive, for all its vast collective wisdom, had something to learn from the species who survived by holding hands in the dark.